Of course. Here's section 1, 500 words, of the script, written in a tight, emotionally engaging style, with no fluff or repetition, and staying true to the infidelity theme. When I married Mark, I thought I was finally settling into something stable. He was older, successful, and after years of dating disappointments, I convinced myself that predictability was love. Our home was beautiful, but it echoed with silence more than laughter. He was always busy, always out. Business trips, meetings, dinners. I stopped asking questions after a while because the answers were always the same. In the beginning, I told myself I was lucky. No drama, no shouting, just peace. But peace can become a kind of loneliness when you're sharing a bed with someone who doesn't see you. He barely looked up from his phone. Intimacy became routine. Even our anniversary dinner last year felt like a corporate event, formal, hollow, efficient. Then Ethan came back. He was Mark's son from a previous marriage. I'd met him once, briefly, before he left for college. Back then, he barely made eye contact, just nodded politely. When he returned unexpectedly to live with us after graduation, I didn't think much of it. I assumed it would be temporary. Ethan was different now. Confident, quiet, but aware of his presence. The way he carried himself was calm, like he saw more than he said. We didn't speak much at first. Just awkward hallway greetings and short mealtime exchanges. But there was something about the way he looked at me. Not rude. Not inappropriate. Just present, like he was paying attention when no one else was. One night, Mark was out again, some gala or client dinner, and I found Ethan in the kitchen, pouring a glass of wine. He offered me one without saying a word. I hesitated, then sat down across from him. We talked. Not about anything earth-shattering, books, music, what it felt like to live in this empty, echoing house. But the way he listened, the way his eyes stayed on mine when I spoke, it was more attention than I'd felt in months. I laughed at something he said. A real laugh. Not the polite kind I'd perfected over the years. He smiled back, and for a second, there was this pause. A flicker. I felt it. I knew he did too. He didn't move, didn't say anything out of line. But the air changed. It thickened. I stood up quickly, said goodnight, and left the kitchen. But I could feel his eyes on me as I walked away. And I didn't hate it. I told myself it was just the wine, the loneliness, the emptiness Mark left behind. I told myself nothing happened. And that was true. Nothing had happened yet. But something had shifted that night, something quiet and dangerous. And though I didn't understand it at the time, I had just opened a door I wouldn't be able to close. Not without consequences. And for the first time in years, I lay in bed wide awake, not because I was worried or anxious, but because I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Seen. I started noticing the little things. The way Ethan lingered in the room when I entered. How his eyes searched mine when we spoke, like he was reading what I wasn't saying. Mark, meanwhile, became more of a shadow in the house. He left earlier, came home later, barely noticed whether Ethan or I were around. If I asked about his schedule, he'd sigh, annoyed, like my curiosity was a burden. Ethan filled the space Mark left behind without even trying. We crossed paths more often. Coffee in the morning. A shared glance over dinner. He remembered things I said in passing. One morning, I complained about how Mark never touched the piano in the living room, though he used to love it. The next evening, I came downstairs and found Ethan playing it, quiet, unassuming. He didn't look at me, didn't say anything. But I knew it was for me. The shift wasn't sudden. It was subtle. We started talking more about childhood, relationships, the things that shaped us. He was thoughtful, disarmingly honest, sometimes even blunt. When he asked if I was happy in my marriage, I didn't lie. I told him I didn't know anymore. He didn't judge me. He just nodded. One afternoon, I was crying in the bedroom. I don't even remember why. It just hit me all at once, how empty everything felt. I didn't hear Ethan come in until he asked if I was okay. I wiped my face, told him I was fine, and tried to smile. He walked over, handed me a tissue, and sat beside me. He didn't touch me, just sat there quietly. His presence felt comforting, almost too much. Then he told me something that made my breath catch. He said he'd seen Mark with another woman. Not recently, months ago. Outside a hotel. He hadn't said anything before, because he wasn't sure it was his place. But he thought I deserved to know. I asked if he was sure. He said yes. She wasn't just a friend. I didn't ask for proof. I believed him. Maybe because deep down I already knew. That night, I couldn't sleep. The betrayal stung, but what hurt more was how unsurprising it felt. Like I'd been preparing myself for it, without realizing. Ethan's words kept echoing in my mind, but it wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. Protective. Angry. Like it hurt him too. In the days that followed, something shifted between us. We didn't talk about what he'd told me, but the silence between us was heavier now. Charged. I'd find myself looking for him, listening for his footsteps. And when our eyes met, it felt like something unspoken passed between us every time. One evening, while we stood in the hallway, our hands brushed. Just a second. A simple touch. But I froze. So, did he? Neither of us moved, but the air between us felt louder than words. I pulled away first. But the damage was done. Something had started, and I knew, even if we never said it, that we were both waiting for the moment it would break open. I avoided him for days. I buried myself in errands, locked my door when I could, and made sure our paths didn't cross. But it was impossible to ignore the weight of what had almost happened. I wasn't just guilty, I was terrified of what I was starting to want. Mark, as usual, didn't notice a thing. He came and went like a stranger. If anything, he was colder than before. He barely looked at me during dinner. He'd sit on his phone, leave early, and offer nothing but silence when I tried to talk. Ethan didn't push. He gave me space, but I could feel him. Every glance, every pause in the hallway, every time I heard him upstairs, it was like my mind wouldn't let go. And then one night he knocked on my door. I opened it without thinking. His eyes were soft, but there was something firm in his voice. He said he couldn't pretend anymore. That he felt something he never expected to feel, and he was done acting like it wasn't real. I didn't respond. I stepped aside. He walked in. I should have stopped it. I didn't. I told myself it was a mistake even as I let it happen. I told myself it was revenge, that I was taking something back for myself, but the truth is, I wanted it. I hadn't felt wanted in years. Not like that. Not without conditions. What started that night didn't end there. We became something I couldn't name. It wasn't just lust, it was an escape, a secret that made me feel alive again. I hated myself for it, but I kept going back. We were careful. Mark never noticed. He was too busy chasing whatever version of himself he still respected. Ethan and I would steal hours, quiet moments when no one was watching, touches that burned even when they ended quickly. I knew it was wrong, but every time I looked into his eyes, I couldn't find the strength to care. Then he told me something else. Mark had been cheating for years. Multiple women. A second phone. Hidden transfers. Ethan found it all while cleaning out old boxes and syncing an old backup to Mark's laptop. He said he didn't want to hurt me with it, but that I deserved to know the truth. That I should see Mark for who he really was. I didn't cry this time. I felt numb. Like something inside me had finally turned off. The affair no longer felt like a betrayal, it felt justified. Like I was simply matching what had already been done to me. But even that didn't make it feel less dangerous. I was still sleeping with my husband's son. That truth didn't stop being horrific just because I felt good inside it. Still, I didn't stop. I told myself we were careful, that nobody would find out, that one day I'd leave Mark and Ethan, and I could figure out what we were. But deep down, I knew nothing built like this could last. I just didn't know yet how badly it would break. I told Ethan I was going to leave Mark. Not for him, for myself. I'd had enough. Enough of the lies, the silence, the pretending. I didn't care about the money, the reputation, the mess. I wanted out. I expected Ethan to be relieved, maybe even happy. But instead, he went quiet, distant. That night, he didn't answer my texts. The next morning, he was gone. No note. No explanation. Just silence. When he came back 2 days later, he didn't waste time. He said we needed to talk, and for the first time, I didn't like the look in his eyes.
Cold.
Flat. Not the same person I'd let into my life, into my body. He sat me down and told me everything.
Not just about Mark.
About him. About why he really came back home. He said this wasn't about me. That it never was. He had planned this. All of it. Coming back. Getting close. Telling me about Mark's affairs. Making me feel seen. Making me feel wanted. He said he needed me to hate Mark, to turn on him, to ruin the image of the perfect husband. Because Mark had destroyed his mother. Cheated on her for years. Discarded her like she was nothing. Left Ethan to pick up the pieces of a broken woman who never recovered. He had watched her die slowly. Not from illness, but from heartbreak. He blamed Mark for all of it. And I was the tool. He admitted he didn't mean to go as far as he did, that he never expected to feel anything real. But it didn't matter. Because the moment he had what he needed, me, broken and ready to walk away, he'd already won. His revenge was complete. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. Every moment, every kiss, every word, none of it had been real. Or maybe some of it had been, but I couldn't tell the difference anymore. He left the room without looking back. An hour later, Mark walked in.
Calm.
Detached. He said he knew everything. The affair. The lies. He had been tracking my phone for weeks. Installed cameras after growing suspicious. He had all the evidence. He didn't shout.
Didn't cry.
He just said, the divorce papers will be on the table tomorrow. He didn't ask why. He didn't care. I lost both of them in one day. One used me to destroy the other. The other discarded me like I was nothing more than an inconvenience. And me? I was left sitting in the wreckage I helped create, wondering if any of it had ever been real. If I had been a villain or just another casualty in someone else's war. I packed a bag. I walked out. There was no apology. No final confrontation. Just silence. Sometimes I still ask myself what I would have done if Ethan had told me the truth before it began. If I'd been strong enough to say no. But I wasn't. And now I live with the weight of everything that followed. A mistake that started as loneliness and ended as something far worse. Betrayal. Manipulation. And a truth I never saw coming.